So I thought we could kick off by talking about recent scandals, because this is kind of what the fandom is saying right now. Like, there's been many things that have recently happened. Of course, we've got a long history with BTS being treated like rubbish by many different groups and people in the media in Korea and in the West. But there's been a few things that have happened recently. So let's start with the Yoongi, the Suga scooter scandal. Yes, Scootergate. So, Tracy, what's your hot take on Scootergate?
Dang. The call is coming from inside the house.
Go on.
I just get the sense that this has been a setup from the side. And yes, effect of it is that it keeps us engaged as a fandom. We want to protect, we want to engage. But I don't know if people consider like the fact that the music industry, the recording industry is such big business. And if you've watched any, I'm sure K-dramas go over this. Y'all know I don't watch K-dramas. But if you've watched any Sopranos or any kind of nefarious underworld narrative, when big business is involved, people start getting really creative about how they compel people to do things. And it was such a nothing incident made by the media to be such a big deal. And then all these characters and actors that were involved, particularly the funeral wreath bringers, like, it's too much rah-rah for something so. Yeah. And I started immediately thinking, like, who are the people who could benefit from his reputation being put in a situation like this? And right now, I have, I don't know if y'all know what's going on with Jay-Z right now. It's a very good comparative analysis happening right now. Like, the way your reputation can be taken through the paces in the court of public opinion and how that can put you at a disadvantage where you're fragile and you're vulnerable, who might want to benefit from that? And sometimes I think there might be some people working for his entertainment company that might have wanted to put him in a fragile situation like that. I don't know what happened. I can only speculate, but it was just too much. It's too much to do about nothing.
Right. So it was. I remember hearing it, and I didn't quite take it seriously at first because I was like, drunkenly riding a scooter. And I don't want to sound like one of those people, but I have been to Korea and I have not drunkenly. I was drinking and riding a bike. I did actually fall off, but that's not because I was drinking. That's because I can't ride a bike very well. Like I can, but in Korea, the bike paths, you have to ride it's like a road. They make you stay on the correct side.
Got it.
I think that's opposite to Australia. So that was the first thing because, like they're left-hand drivers on the right-hand side of the road. In Australia, we're right-hand drivers on the left-hand side of the road.
Right, that's Korea.
And I was riding along and don't have a helmet or anything because they don't seem to mind about that in Korea. Whereas in Australia, it's very. I'm sure they do mind, but like when we hired the bikes, it wasn't. We were doing an M tuning day. We were going along the river. We were actually playing mono at the time on like my friend's phone, drinking some cider, and my cider started to slip in the basket and I went to get the cider and then I was very sick at the time. My depth perception was really out and I was like, okay, I've got to pick this up and brake the bike. And I started to wobble and I didn't realize that I could just put my feet down to stop me from falling off my bike. And I did not put my feet down and I just fell off my bike.
Yeah.
And I had recently been through some weight gain and was feeling super self-conscious in Korea because everyone had quite a different body. Yeah, including my friend who I was traveling with. So I felt very monstrous by comparison. But I fell and I landed on my boobs and I landed with my face like a millimeter from like the ground. So like my glasses, my teeth were all about to smack, but my boobs stopped it. And I was like,
the day.
Yep, this is why I gained weight. Anyway, that's majorly off topic, but I have been in Korea a little bit and it doesn't really strike me as a state that would go after someone for what Suga did. Like I was expecting it to be like he got on his scooter drunk and had a rampage, like pushed people over, went into traffic, kicked over a bin. Not that there's many bins in Seoul. Good luck trying to put your trash away.
I heard about that.
Yeah, it was very strange, but it's exciting when you do find a bin. That's like the highlight of your day. I was expecting something like that. And then when I saw the CCTV footage of him just like turning and falling off, and the police were there right away.
Right away. Like they had been following him. Like they knew his route, that like they knew the path. Let's see if we can catch him on something today.
Yeah. And then that fact that it turned into something so big, whereas if it were in the West, and also before, hasn't JK like ran into the back of someone's car before? I can think he's done like a bit of like, he was on his phone, wasn't really thinking, okay, producer Pooja, who no one else can see but us, is nodding. She's saying, yes, that's something that happened. Wow. So this has happened before. There has been slight incidents.
Wow.
And he had to apologize. I think he paid for any damage. And this kind of thing is quite common in Korea and also the whole world. You often just accidentally run into someone at a stoplight or something like that. So the fact that it has, or there's a precedence within BTS where it wasn't, I'm sure it was a bit of a deal when this happened to JK. I can't particularly remember what the response was, but this seemed to blow so far out of proportion that it feels like if the police weren't planted or whatever, like that is a pretty big conspiracy. But even if that weren't the case, there were enough people waiting for something like this to happen to quickly capitalize on it.
Too many people. Like, and people that it might be a personal thing that we would never know about, a flight that was made, or it could be a number of reasons. But I'll tell you this, and I think that's what put this in my head, is watching this whole Bang PD and MHJ. I can never pronounce her name.
Yeah.
I was like, these people are not to be played with. And the fact that it's happening publicly where people are getting access to people's emails, and I'm just like, oh, they don't play in Korea. So I could see how someone with a desire to make him look bad would do whatever needed to get the information to put him in a vulnerable situation.
That's right. And that actually brings me to the next thread that producer Pooja has so graciously gifted us. It is from Hee Jin, where there's like, and sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. My Australian accent does not do me any favors when I try. My Korean teacher has tried to beat it out of me with her words and her kindness, but it has not worked so far.
Go on.
Okay. So linking to this is that there were these messages, and I'll actually share my screen again for all of those who are watching this. Let's go to this Reddit thread. So she has been messaging with shaman. Let's not get into that part right now. But the shaman and Hee Jin, oh my gosh, seemed to be saying that they wanted to end BTS and that they were planning to end BTS. Including a text that says, end BTS here instead of rehearsing like SM. So that's interesting. So what this potentially points to is that there are people clamoring for power within HYBE and also within other entertainment businesses.
Companies.
Yeah. So like it's not only SM Entertainment and, you know, all the other JYP conglomerates, you know, who are wanting to get rid of BTS, because of course we have to acknowledge, I would be pissed if I weren't the one who had BTS. I would be like, how do I get my people in front of the same amount of people that BTS are? How do I achieve that kind of fame and notoriety for my groups, for my soloists? So I could see why people would be pretty pissed off, because BTS have dominated for far longer than is typical for groups. Normally,
they're
like they go
ready for them to go. They're just ready for them to go. Can we be done?
Yeah, because it's about, they've seen how much money is actually in K-pop, which has expanded drastically, especially since the pandemic. And BTS have opened up a lot of doors for that. So now other companies and other people are like, great.
How do we get that?
Yeah, they paved the way and now we want to go on that road. So how do we get there? And of course there's right ways and wrong ways, but none of that seems to matter. It's business, right? Whereas we're coming at it from more of an emotional, moral, ethical standpoint.
We're coming from the perspective of a consumer that we're not involved in these processes.
Yeah, that's right. And so it's interesting that it's not only people outside of HYBE, but it's people within HYBE. And at the end of the day, anytime something feels off, feels fishy, it generally has something to do with power and control. And we won't always know the full story. We won't actually know who it is that wants power and control.
Correct.
Because also, ultimately, the police officers that pulled over Yoongi could have just been like, look at this clown, might not have even known it was him. Let's just pick him up and like figure out what he's doing. And then when they see it's him, they go, well, actually, this is a bigger deal because you have a large public profile and this is quite dishonorable and shameful. Or maybe I just don't like you that much. Maybe I really don't like BTS and I just want to prove a point, or I want to look good to my colleague. Like, there could have been so many things, or they could have just been doing their job. Like, ultimately, we don't know. But I guess what we can comment on is how the fandom responds to that and what the fandom chooses to do with that. Because we can't control these external forces, but we can kind of start to think who benefits not only from Suga getting arrested, but also the drama that ensues. So, of course, we think people like Hee Jin could be benefiting from that if she wants to go for a power grab. We could be thinking other companies could benefit from that. But then there's also other fandoms who would take great pleasure in the downfall of BTS because they feel like their own, and we have discussed this in a great live that you can get on Traci's profile, but it seems that a lot of people's fan identity is so strongly linked to their idols that if their idols don't succeed, then they, as a person, aren't succeeding. So I think that's all very interesting already, that there's a lot going on, many different players, and also just many other random factors that seem from the outside like they could be part of a conspiracy, but maybe aren't. The other thing that we wanted to bring up was the YouTube deleting views still. So there was some conspiracy going around, I think, with Jin's release, recent releases, that about 15 million YouTube views were deleted on a video. And so this is, ARMY has kind of bought into this rhetoric, and it's quite a common one that you hear throughout the fandom. Like, YouTube want to suppress BTS. Yeah, have you heard of that? No.
I don't know about this.
So I remember back when we would be trying to stream to get like Dynamite to #1 or 1 billion views, or, you know, there were certain records that we'd try and get, especially like in 2020 during the pandemic, because that's what we're up to. We're all at home. It's like, let's go. And we wanted to get BTS that kind of notoriety and the acknowledgement, which is understandable. And even then, YouTube was deleting views. And I think to be a semi-voice of reason, of course, we don't know everything, but there are YouTube does kind of remove views or filter out views just like any other platform if they seem like they're spammy. And if you get like tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people sitting there going, okay, replay, you know, like they normally put out advice about how to structure your streaming so that you're not just replaying the same video, which would seem very spammy if you get to like a few hundred times of listening to the one
you feel
song.
like a bot.
And so I'm not saying that's necessarily what it is, but every time I see views getting deleted, it's like, well, we are technically sitting at home acting like bots right now. So you can't be surprised when these platforms detect that your behavior might be robotic.
You've become the bot.
We'll get into that.
No,
that is
you literally became the bot just now.
That is a whole kettle of fish. Like, I don't know if I think that's a whole nother conversation for another day, though. Like the streaming thing, listening to every single song, like who's winning in that?
Who is the real algorithm?
That's right. And who actually benefits? And I think that's the whole, what I want to ask everyone, who, anytime we're confronted with anything in the fandom, who's benefiting from this? If we're feeling like we want to react or get really upset, who's benefiting and why?
Can I speak to that YouTube thing? Because I wouldn't have known not one thing about BTS without YouTube. I wouldn't have had a clue. So it doesn't seem to me that YouTube would ever have a reason to delete viable views. But they would have a reason to delete bot views because it's making their other creators feel cheated. So in order to, keep the playing field fair and not piss off everyone else, I can see them doing that. But suppressing BTS views just to suppress them, like why would YouTube ever benefit from that when that is now the main thing that I consume on YouTube is BTS related things. That one doesn't compute.
Yeah. Well, from a business perspective, and that's what we're saying. Like, also, YouTube makes their money by selling ads.
Right.
So if they have ads on those videos, the reason why they're deleting views is because it looks like people are just spamming to like YouTube would then have to pay people more revenue for all that.
Right.
So, you know, so they've got 15 million views, but from only like, say 100,000 people.
Yeah.
They'd be like, okay, well, clearly they're not watching the ad, and they would have a policy so that they don't have to pay out that person the ad.
Makes sense.
Yeah, the ad, they wouldn't have to pay BTS the ad revenue. So and then, because then, okay, I've got it. I figured it out. The ad company. So say me, Wallea, I put an ad on YouTube. I pay $10 for every 100 views that I get. Then the video goes up to 15 million. And I'm like, well, firstly, great if that was true. But if that wasn't true, why would I want to spend that money on fake views? And then I would pull my advertising.
To be fair to both the creators and the advertisers. This is still a business for them where they have ethics and policies. So if something that an army is doing is affecting that, they have the right to save and protect their reputation and their business. They would have no reason to be like, we don't like those 7 Korean guys. That doesn't even that's the thing here. It's like the logic does not apply when it comes to BTS. There's always this exception because it's BTS. And that's when I'm like, can we really just pull back a minute and think through this? Let's think about the medium itself, this as a business, as an art form, as a mode of communication, all the other functions other than you getting your jollies off on BTS all the time. Like, you know how I feel about that. Like, it's not always just about somebody hating on BTS.